Over the past few months, the Alliance of Sahel States, known as the AES, led by Burkina Faso's firebrand leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, alongside Mali and Niger, has been making moves that have left ECOWAS scrambling. From solidarity protests to new passports, joint military forces, and explosive accusations of foreign meddling, the Sahel is rewriting the rules. But is this a revolution or a recipe for conflict? What you are about to witness is the complete destruction of West Africa's most powerful organization. Before we continue, hit that like button to support our video. On January 29th, 2025, while most people were going about their normal day, 3 West African nations were making history in the most dramatic way possible. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso officially withdrew from ECOWAS. This was not just any withdrawal. They were not random member countries. They were founding members who helped create ECOWAS 50 years ago. ECOWAS tried everything to stop this. They offered extensions, they begged, they negotiated. Do you know what Ibrahim Traoré and his allies said? They said no. 3 founding members gone. 50 years of regional unity shattered in a single day. But they did not just walk away. They are now building something that has made the Western powers absolutely terrified. On the exact same day, they launched their own passport system, their own banking plans, their own military alliance. They were basically saying, we don't need you anymore. We are building something better. People in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger were overjoyed. In Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, thousands gathered in the streets cheering and waving new AES passports. These passports did not have the ECOWAS logo. They were a symbol of breaking free. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's leader, even got one himself, and it was a big deal for every citizen. The excitement over the new passports was not just about travel, it was about identity, pride, and independence. For many, it marked the start of a new chapter, one where their countries were no longer tied to a system they felt had failed them. That is because, beneath the celebration, there was a deeper frustration, one that had been building for years. ECOWAS is supposed to help West African countries work together with things like free trade, easy travel, and shared security. But the AES countries said it was not working for them. They believed that the ECOWAS is too controlled by foreign powers like France and the United States and does not really care about their needs. So they left and started their own alliance. However, they are not just creating this alliance for themselves. They said any African country that wants to join can join. They are creating an alternative to ECOWAS, an alternative to every Western-influenced African organization. But building a new alliance comes with big questions, especially around security, and that is where the fiercest criticism began. ECOWAS and Western powers keep mentioning that the AES cannot afford to leave ECOWAS because of the terrorism in the region. They keep saying that these military governments cannot handle security, and on the surface, their argument seems hard to ignore. The numbers alone tell a terrible story. Burkina Faso has become one of the most dangerous places on earth. Since 2022, about 15,500 people have been killed, with over 6,000 deaths just in 2024. But the most incredible part is that the AES leaders are saying that it is the exact reason they need to leave ECOWAS. They are arguing that ECOWAS and Western partners have failed to provide security for 50 years. Traoré especially has been absolutely brutal in his criticism. He said, France had military bases here for decades. The US has been training our soldiers. ECOWAS has been coordinating security, and my people are still dying every day. So what exactly have you been doing? But Traoré is not just venting frustration. He is telling the truth, a truth that after decades of foreign involvement, the results speak for themselves. So instead of relying on the same broken strategies, the AES is choosing to rewrite the rules. However, ECOWAS did not just sit back. They said their doors are still open, but behind closed doors, things were getting tense. By April, the situation got even more serious. On April 21, Burkina Faso's government announced they stopped a major attempt to overthrow Captain Traoré. They did not share all the details, but they pointed fingers at foreign countries and some ECOWAS members, especially Côte d'Ivoire, saying they were helping the plotters. It was not just a small issue, it set off a huge reaction across West Africa. The fact that Blaise Compaoré, a former Burkina Faso leader who was involved in killing another revolutionary, Thomas Sankara, back in 1987, is living in Côte d'Ivoire did not help matters. It was like a slap in the face to Traoré's supporters. People in Ghana, Liberia, and Burkina Faso took to the streets, holding signs that said, "Hands off the AES." These protests were organized by groups like the Socialist Movement of Ghana, who called Traoré a hero for standing up for African pride. They even criticized the U.S. military, specifically General Michael Langley, who leads U.S. Africa Command. In a speech to the U.S. Senate on April 3, 2025, he accused Traoré of misusing Burkina Faso's gold reserves. That made a lot of people angry, and they saw it as proof that the U.S. was meddling in African affairs. The AES did not just brush this off, they came out stronger, with Traoré promising to fight anyone trying to control them. But the story did not stop there. By the middle of 2025, things were heating up. ECOWAS held a big meeting in Abuja, Nigeria, and the main topic was the AES. They were worried because the AES leaving made ECOWAS look weak. Instead of trying to make peace, they turned up the pressure. At first, ECOWAS responded by placing sanctions on the AES countries. They suspended them from meetings and tried to cut them off from the rest of the region. But the AES leaders said they were not worried and would look for new partners instead. Later, ECOWAS tried to talk things out. They asked the AES countries to stay and offered more time to fix the situation. They said they believed a solution was still possible, but the AES countries replied that it was already too late and they were not changing their minds. Now, ECOWAS seems to be getting worried. Many people believe the group is no longer as strong as it used to be. Without Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, ECOWAS has lost about 40% of its land. It has also lost access to important resources. Most importantly, it can no longer claim to represent all of West Africa. Nigeria in particular is said to be very concerned. For many years, it has played a leading role in ECOWAS, but now Nigerian leaders are starting to realize that their influence has limits. Reports suggest they are frustrated that they can no longer control what happens in the Sahel region or claim to speak for the whole of West Africa. In response, ECOWAS, backed strongly by Nigeria, began to take a harder stance. ECOWAS did not say they were going to war, but they made some tough demands. They told the AES countries, all run by military leaders, to hold elections and bring back civilian governments. They also threatened to cut off trade benefits, which could hurt the AES economies. But instead of backing down, the AES countries pushed back hard. Rather than seeing ECOWAS's demands as pressure to cooperate, they saw them as proof of hostility. To them, this was not diplomacy, it was a warning shot. And so, they responded with a united front. The EC was not scared. Niger's leader, General Abdourahmane Tiani, hosted the first ES summit in Niamey. Traoré and Mali's leader, Assimi Goïta, were there too. They called ECOWAS a threat and accused it of working for foreign powers like France and the US. They signed a new agreement to make their alliance even stronger, promising to defend each other and work together on trade. They even talked about creating their own currency to replace the CFA franc, which they say is controlled by France. This was a direct challenge to ECOWAS's idea of a united West Africa. And it was not just talk. Other countries started paying attention. Chad's president Mahamat Deby visited Burkina Faso in February 2025, and some think Chad might side with the AES. Togo also said they were thinking about joining, which would be huge because Togo has a port that could help the AES trade without relying on ECOWAS countries. If Togo leaves ECOWAS, it could weaken the group even more, almost destroying it. Right now, ECOWAS is trying to hold things together, but the AES is building its own path. When the AES countries left ECOWAS, they did not just leave a trade organization, they detonated an economic nuclear bomb that had been building for 50 years. These three countries represent 40% of ECOWAS's total land area. They control massive mineral resources. Mali has gold. Niger has uranium that actually powers French nuclear plants. Burkina Faso has gold and other critical minerals. Now, they are building alternatives. They have launched their own passport system. They are already working on creating their own currency. They are already building their own banking systems. These countries have been trading more and more with China, Russia, and Turkey. They are not economically dependent on ECOWAS anymore. So why is this getting so intense? What makes the situation more dangerous is that, according to some reports, a few ECOWAS countries are thinking about using force, not by sending their own armies, but by secretly supporting rebel groups inside AES countries. In response, AES leaders have warned that if anyone tries to destabilize their governments, they will take military action. They have also made it clear that, with their new Joint Military Command, they are ready to follow through on that threat. This is not just a West African fight, it is a global one. Big countries like Russia, China, the US, and France are all involved, and they are making things more complicated. After the AES kicked out French soldiers, Russia stepped in with weapons and support. They sent military advisors and equipment to Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Traoré even called Russia family because they are helping without trying to control everything. But some worry the AES is just swapping one boss for another by swapping France for Russia. China is also getting involved, but in a different way. They are investing in things like roads and power plants. They see the AES as a chance to expand their influence in Africa. Then there is Turkey, which is selling drones to Burkina Faso to help fight terrorists. These drones are a big deal because they give the AES more power to handle their own security. On the other side, the US and France are losing influence. The US had to pull its troops out of Niger, which was a big blow. General Langley's comments about Traoré's gold reserves made things worse, with many accusing the US of trying to control the AES. France is in an even tougher spot. They have been kicked out of all 3 AES countries and are seen as the bad guy. What is making Western powers panic is that other African countries are watching. If the AES Confederation succeeds, if they can create a functioning union outside Western influence, what stops other African countries from doing the same? The AES said the US and France are using ECOWAS to keep West Africa under their thumb. Meanwhile, Russia and China are cheering the AES on, saying it is about African independence. It is like a big chess game, with West Africa stuck in the middle. So, is this war? Not in the usual way. There are no armies marching across borders, there are no bombs falling, but make no mistake, this is a war for the future of Africa, a war for true independence. And right now, Traoré and his AES Alliance are winning. They have successfully challenged one of Africa's most powerful organizations. They have created a functioning alternative. They have inspired young people across the continent. They have proven that you can stand up to Western powers and survive. Right now, in July 2025, there is no war, but things are very tense. Everyone is watching to see what will happen next. Some people worry that a real war could still break out. ECOWAS has its own army called ECOMOG, which has stepped in before, like during the war in Liberia. If ECOWAS tries to send soldiers into a country like Niger to bring back the old president, the AES would fight back. The AES has its own force, weapons from Russia, and drones from Turkey. Nigeria, the biggest military power in ECOWAS, could also get help from countries like the US or France. But a war like this would be very messy, very expensive, and might not solve anything. There is also the chance of an economic fight. ECOWAS could try to hurt the AES by cutting off trade or freezing their money. But the AES is already finding new ways to survive. They are using Guinea's ports for trade, and if Togo joins them, they will have even more options. Countries like Russia and China might send them help. This kind of fight would hurt everyone, especially ordinary people, but it is less likely to turn into full war. Right now, it is more like a standoff. Both sides are talking tough, but no one wants to be the first to start a fight. The AES is still growing stronger and could add new members like Togo or Chad. ECOWAS is still pushing for elections and using sanctions to pressure the AES. But if something goes wrong, like a coup or a fight at the border, things could quickly spin out of control. Terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS are also active in the region, and any chaos could help them grow stronger. This situation matters to everyone. The AES says it just wants to be free to make its own choices. ECOWAS wants to stay important and keep the region together. Regular people want peace, jobs, and the ability to travel freely. And the rest of the world is watching closely because West Africa is full of valuable resources, and many powerful countries want a say in what happens next. But this is far from over. The forces that benefit from the existing order are not going to give up easily. There will be more pressure, more sanctions, more attempts to destabilize these countries. Will the AES deliver on its promises? Will they improve security, grow their economies, and create opportunities for their people? Because if they can, this will be remembered as the moment Africa truly became independent.